Welcome to StarCityGames.com Standard Open in Indianapolis. I'm Glenn Jones here with Todd Anderson.
That's me.
Oh, he jinxed it. All right, well, Todd...
You owe me a Coke now. Jinx.
1 sec. I'm fresh out. I actually did have a Coke a second ago.
Okay. I'll take a Diet
That would have been sweet. So you are once again playing Hallowed Fountains, Steam Vents, Glacial Fortress, Sulphur Falls, but it's a little different.
It is. It's a lot different, actually.
A lot different.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if any of you read Brad Nelson's article this week. He had a very interesting deck list that was posted from a tournament in Chiba, Japan, or China. I don't know.
Chiba.
Yeah, that's Japan, right?
Yes, it's Japan.
So, sorry, my geography is a little off, much like my math and my drawing skills.
Middle school is tough.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it's a Delver deck without Delver of Secrets. It's very tempo-oriented with stuff like Geist of Saint Traft, Snapcaster Mage, Restoration Angel, and then we also have a big finisher in... I keep calling him Hellkite Charger, but he's Thundermaw Hellkite. So
significantly better.
Yes, much better. But in general, the deck tries to counter your opponent's like more relevant spells, and then like kill early creatures with stuff like Pillar of Flame, Searing Blaze, and then like finish them off with a Geist of Saint Traft or something like that. So the deck's been running pretty sweet so far. The mana is phenomenal for this 3-color aggro deck. And honestly, like it's easier to cast Geist of Saint Traft in this deck than it ever was in a 2-color Delver deck. Like I had a lot of trouble like playing Blue-White Delver, just like having Island, Moorland Haunt sometimes, or just triple Island. But this deck has like 13 to 16 of every color source. So Bread is basically a free splash, which is good because Pillar of Flame is so good against all the aggro decks in the format.
Nice. So obviously your list is not identical to the one from Chiba.
I decided to change a few cards. He was playing Izzet Charm in the deck, which I just hate that card. Like all 3 modes are just very mediocre. It's like an optional card, but he had 2 Azorius Charm and 2 Izzet Charm, so I just cut the Izzet Charm for more Azorius Charm. Cycling a card against control is awesome, and also putting a creature on top against zombies or green-white is just amazing. And when you have stuff like Snapcaster Mage to flash it back, you can really just generate like incredible amounts of tempo and card advantage from those 2 cards combining with each other. He also had 4 Dissipates in his main deck, which I didn't like very much. I think the Syncopate is probably the best counterspell in Standard, and I felt like you really want to interact with a lot of decks on turn 2, which with Dissipate you can't do that. Because turn 3 you want to cast Geist, so you really want to Syncopate their spell on 2, and then cast Geist on 3, and then follow that up with removal spells and stuff like Unsummon or Bounce spells or Detention Spheres to make your Geist not have anything in its way.
That's very much out of the Delver wheelhouse, right? Trying to get Geist on an empty board and then untap with Disruption.
Yeah, it actually proves just how bad of a card Delver is by itself and how good Ponder was.
Sure.
So, like, without any sort of way to manipulate your library, you also have to play, like, a significantly smaller number of creatures than you would in, like, a normal Delver deck. Or just less powerful creatures. Every deck in the format has like a 1-mana or 2-mana removal spell, and since Delver doesn't flip consistently, even when you do get to flip it, it's usually just going to die the next turn. So honestly, it's just not that great of a card, but all the other creatures in the deck just feel amazing.
All right, well, I think most of the spells are like pretty self-explanatory based on how you run it down. You know, nobody's wondering why Detention Spheres in your blue-white.
Sure.
For example. But I wanted to talk about the burn spells because you talked about how aggressive this deck can be. How often do you find yourself going to the face versus removing a creature?
Well, I've only played 3 matches with the deck so far. I play tested 0. I just saw the deck and I loved it, and without play testing at all, I decided to change some cards because that's just what I do. And yeah, I'm a big theory crafter when it comes to changing decks. Sure. But basically, Searing Spear gives you a different angle of attack, and Pillar Flame was just a shoo-in anyway, just because of its utility against zombies. But the fact that Searing Spear can go to the Dome is really important against control decks as well as some of the more mid-range decks, because when you're racing them, turning Snapcaster Mage into, I don't know, a creature that flashes and deals damage to your opponent.
What about Flash? We got Keldon Champion. That's pretty
yeah, he's basically, turning him into Keldon Champion's pretty nice, but doesn't have Echo, has Flash, you know. But the fact that Searing Spear goes to the Dome is much more relevant than I thought it would be. And it's been awesome so far. I considered changing it to Mizzium Mortars before the tournament started, but I'm really glad that I didn't. The only card that I'm really afraid of at the moment is Luxodon Smiter, because I'm relying heavily on my counterspells to be able to deal with certain creatures, and Luxodon Smiter is one that I actually just can't kill with anything other than just Azorius Charm, which just buys you like another turn, but doesn't really fix the problem. So I guess I just try to get bigger than them. I can use Azorius Charm to put it on top when he blocks Geist of Saint Traft, but other than that, he's a problem, but I really like Searing Spear against basically everything else.
Sure, that's reasonable. Let's move over to the sideboard.
Sure.
We changed it a little again from the Chiba list.
Right.
It had some additional Planeswalkers. I think Jace Memory Depth was one we can both agree is like pretty mediocre in aggressive decks now, whereas it used to be awesome. Now that the control decks all have their own Jaces.
Yeah, that was actually one of the reasons why I cut it, is because you're never going to win a Jace war against them, and your Jace is never going to kill them because they have 4+ Jaces in their deck after board, like at all times. So even if your plan is to Jace mill them 10, like 4 times in a row to try to kill them, like after the second activation, sure, they have 20 cards in their graveyard, but they just play their Jace, kill yours, and then you have a card that basically did nothing.
Yep.
The rest of the sideboard, I forgot exactly what I cut, but I really wanted Supreme Verdict against the green-white aggro decks. I felt like that was a matchup that needed a little bit of help just because of just the overwhelming board presence they can create and how they are immune to a lot of my removal spells, and the fact that I can't kill Smiter very easily. Supreme Verdict just seemed like a perfect answer because I could just sit back on like Azorius Charms, counter spells, and then when the board got too gummed up where I couldn't break through, I could just Supreme Verdict and then start fresh with Geist, Hellkite, Angel after that.
Yeah.
Other than that, Dungeon Geist and Tamio I really liked against a lot of the creature decks where you don't actually want to kill the creatures, such as like Thragtusk or various zombie decks. A lot of the zombie decks now are playing Crippling Blight instead of Tragic Slip, so they have virtually no answer to a Dungeon Geist, which is awesome. So Dungeon Geist, even though it can get shrunk down to a 2/2 and can't block, you still get to lock down a Gerald's Messenger, a Lot Troll, or even like a Falconwrath Aristocrat at some points. But the red versions do usually have Searing Spear and other removal spells for it. So.
I mean, at 4 mana, it's obviously immune to Abrupt Decay,
Right.
and it comes down after a Geist to lock down the creature that could block it. So it
Correct.
seems like it really fits in a nice spot on the curve.
Other than that, I have 4 more counterspells on the board against control. We have 2 negates, 2 dissipates, to go along with the 1 dissipate, 4 syncopate, 2 essence scatter in the main deck. Sure. There are a lot of matchups where I board in just dissipate, and there are a lot of matchups where I board in dissipate and negate. Like negate's not that great against Jund because all their relevant threats are creatures, but dissipate's amazing against them because they're just all 4 drops and 5 drops.
And they can't afford to run Cavern.
Right, yeah, like no one plays Cavern, and that was actually one of the biggest reasons why I played this deck. I talked to like 10 to 15 different people before the tournament started, like yesterday and like during the week, and I just like see all these decks that have 0 Caverns, and like the only decks with Cavern are like the white-blue weenie deck and some zombie decks. Like not even all the zombie decks play Cavern anymore. A lot of them just play all the guild gates possible so they can cast their spells, which makes them incredibly vulnerable to Syncopate and Essence Scatter. And the fact that like a lot of your removal spells don't actually deal with a lot of the cards, like Falconwrath Aristocrat, for example, is really good against you, and except when you have 6 counter spells that counter for 2 mana. So, but other than that, the rest of the sideboard, 2 Purify the Grave. This matchup against Reanimator is not as good as the Miracle version because you're not able to sweep the board every turn. And so I wanted to have a few answers to be able to tempo them out. Like they tap out for like Unbarrow Rights on X gigantic monster, spend 1 mana to counter it basically, and then you can either hit their Unbarrow Rights or just wait till they try to go for another target to hit the other one. And then finishing out, we have 2 Sundering Growths, which are great against Rakdos Keyrune, which kind of is a problem for Geist of St. Traft, since 4 of our pillars are like sorcery speed, and you can also populate the Geist of St. Traft Angel, which is pretty sweet. Detention Sphere is another great target for Sundering as well. So.
Yep, alright. Have you actually gotten to populate an Angel token yet?
Not yet. I have not been able to cast it. I played against 2 Jund decks so far. One I never drew the Sundering Growth, and the other I drew it but never played a Keyrune, so it wasn't relevant. But haven't lost a game yet. Fingers crossed. Deck's really awesome, so.
We're gonna knock on wood.
Some wood table in here, I hope. This might be, no, this is wood.
I feel like it's wood.
It's hard.
Yeah, it feels hard in wood. Alright, well, we're gonna go ahead and wish Todd luck in the rest of the standard.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it.
Good luck. Hopefully we'll see you in top 8 again.
Yeah. See you soon.